I suspect you're going to know exactly what this vehicle that is next to me is. It's a Tesla Model 3, and it's not just one of Australia's most popular electric vehicles, it's one of Australia's most popular vehicles, full stop. And probably just 5 short years ago, you would have found that very hard to believe. Now today, we're going to take a look at why the Tesla Model 3 is one of Australia's most popular vehicles. And I'll tell you one thing that's really interesting about this vehicle, and in a way, the phenomenon of electric vehicles in general. This is a sedan. It's not an SUV, and Australians keep telling us that they want to buy SUVs in huge numbers and that sedans are done. They're 1990s, they're early 2000s, nobody wants them, they're not practical. Well, the Tesla Model 3 bucks that trend. Let's first take a look at pricing and spec. At the time of testing in July 2023, after a $3,900 price cut on the 1st of July, the rear-wheel drive Tesla Model 3 was listed at $57,400 plus on-road costs, its lowest ever price, or just over $60,000 drive away in New South Wales. That's according to Tesla's website. The vehicle on test is fitted with red multi-coat paint for $2,400 more and larger 19-inch sport wheels for $1,800 extra. The standards are 18-inch alloys with aero wheel covers. That's a total price of $61,600 plus on-road costs, or $64,501 drive away in New South Wales. Standard features in the base Model 3 include synthetic leather look upholstery, LED headlights, a 15-inch touchscreen, tinted panoramic glass roof, dual wireless phone charging pads, power adjustable front seats, heated front and rear seats, a heated steering wheel, a power boot lid and 4 USB-C ports. However, there are some omissions. Tesla continues to persist without an instrument display ahead of the driver, instead placing the speed readout in the corner of the large centre touchscreen, and there's no Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, but Bluetooth and inbuilt navigation are included. Powering the Tesla Model 3 is a single electric motor developing 208 kilowatts. That's according to certification documents filed by Tesla with the Australian government, as the car maker does not publish power specifications driving the rear wheels. Tesla claims energy efficiency based on European WLTP test procedures of 14.4 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres in mixed, that's urban and highway driving, making it Australia's second most efficient new electric vehicle behind the Hyundai Ioniq 6 Dynamic. Over more than 500 kilometres of city, highway and country road driving, we beat the claim with energy consumption of 13.9 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometres, or 139 watt hours per kilometre as shown on the car's trip computer. Tesla does not specify the capacity of the battery, however multiplying its voltage, 345 volts, as specified in the owner's manual, by its amperage, 173 amps as listed in the Australian government approval documents filed by Tesla, equates to a 59.7 kilowatt hour battery pack. Compared to the WLTP driving range claim of 491 kilometres, we achieved the equivalent of 430 kilometres of real-world range. Design, such a subjective thing, and the Tesla Model 3 is nothing if not polarising. Now I have to say, I don't love the design, but I don't find anything offensive about it either. It doesn't make me look at it and go, "Ugh, it looks horrible." Some people reckon it does. I don't think so. What I do like about the design, though, is how pared down it is and how anything unnecessary has been removed. Even the door handles, they sit flush with the doors. Yes, potentially they could break down the track, I guess, if you want to be super critical, but I like the look of them and the way they hide in, and everything else about the design is quite smooth and integrated. Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Doesn't matter what your answer is, tell us why. One thing the automotive world loves, and automotive designers specifically, is a buzzword. Now, as a journalist, I don't love the buzzwords, but the buzzword of the last 5 years or so has been reductive or reductionist. Now, that's 2 words I know, but 1 word to describe the same thing. So, they talk a lot about reductive design, which in theory means reducing things, whether it's outside the car or inside the vehicle, that you don't need. And I would argue Tesla has probably set a standard in that regard that all other manufacturers are starting to follow. So let's run through a few things that aren't here. There's not a whole bunch of switches that you don't need. There aren't controls everywhere. There aren't things that are just sticking out for no reason. It's very smooth. It's very minimalist. And the word I'd use is it's very underdone, but I don't mean that as a criticism because, to be honest with you, the lack of switchgear in here and the design itself is quite refreshing. However, there are some drawbacks. The fact that you have to do certain things through these steering wheel rotary dials, a little bit annoying. We've done some comparison testing lately with the Tesla Model 3 against the new Cupra electric vehicle, and the fact that the Tesla doesn't have a driver-specific dial or a head-up display is annoying. The Cupra's got a little, almost race car-like display there that moves up and down with the steering wheel and stays visible. Very clever. We don't like the fact that your speedo is up in the top right of this display because you have to keep moving your eye away from the screen to see what speed you're doing. It's silly. There's no need for it. Tesla could have come up with a better solution. Now, that's not a criticism of the screen itself because the screen is massive, it's responsive, it's fast, the software's excellent, it does exactly what you want it to do, and it's not too hard to work out either. There's a lot of depth to the menu, and in a way, there's a lot of complexity. There's 1,000 Easter eggs hidden in there for argument's sake, but where other manufacturers put that same level or attempt to put that same level of connectivity in there and interaction, they make it a lot harder to work out. The Tesla system is particularly easy, and I think like some of the best modern smartphones, you could show somebody who had no idea how to drive an electric vehicle how to lock and unlock the Tesla and say, go for your life, and they'd be able to work it out quite easily. There's a lot of information in there that's quite useful in terms of charging and usage and the way that the battery is behaving and the way that your driving is affecting battery usage. So I'd encourage anybody who's buying a Tesla Model 3 to get in there and have a dig around with that stuff and work it all out. Elsewhere within the cabin, visibility's good, driving position's good, plenty of storage, wireless charging pad that works. You do need to constantly put the key card here in the middle, which is a little weird. I would recommend, obviously, if you're buying a Tesla, that you just get the app on your phone and use your phone for everything because it's one less thing you have to carry. And in the past, when we've tested that, it's worked faultlessly for us. Last thing to mention from the front seat here, that silly roof. It looks good, and when you're sitting in here, especially at night through that blue tint, it looks quite luxurious. It's absolutely incredibly dumb on a hot summer day, which we tend to have quite a few of in Australia. I've had to drive these around in summer before with a hat on, and it's not because my head was getting sunburned because the tinting works well. It's just that it was so hot, and on those really hot days, the air conditioning has to work incredibly hard to try to keep the cabin cool. So I'd like some kind of proper screen across that blocks that heat out. That's no surprise to you. We've said that before about Teslas. We'll say it again here. But in terms of your interactivity with the vehicle, I think Tesla is second to none. I think the way that they set everything up, particularly easy to use and rewarding for the driver. Let's take a look at the second row. Okay, let's talk about seating comfort first before we get to amenity. I've scooched the driver's seat as far forward as I can get it because it is quite tight back here. So what I've done is I've moved the steering wheel in a bit further than I would normally have it and moved the seat forward a little bit. Probably not where I'd be driving every day, but if I had backseat passengers, that's what I'd do to give them a bit more comfort. The seat itself, not too bad. Headroom's okay, but my head is up in this glass area, so it's up above that line. So when you get in and out, you're going to need to come in over this top of the roof section. The back of the seats are hard plastic. So if you're not careful, as I wasn't when I just got in, you're going to bash your knee on the back of them. Be aware of that. I don't have particularly chunky shoes on today. Can't get my feet under the seat. So your feet are stuck there whether you like it or not. Some of the benefits, fully flat floor right the way through, so you could move your foot out and put it there for argument's sake. You've got plenty of room. You've got air conditioning vents. You've got USB-C chargers. And as I said, the seat itself is pretty comfortable, so it's not going to be horrible if you're back here on a longer drive. Visibility is pretty good as well. You can see out of the car particularly well, so you don't feel like you're squashed in here. And while I guess the focus of something like a Tesla Model 3 is up there and interacting with all of the controls, it's fair to say that back here, it's pretty comfortable. You can charge your device, not the worst place to spend a longer road trip. Now, obviously key to making a sedan useful and this is the argument put forward by everybody who rushes out to buy an SUV, is that they don't have enough space in the boot. However, I would argue that the Tesla Model 3 is actually a very good representation of how useful a boot can be. Now, this is the platform, ladder, contraption, something or other, I don't know what exactly you would call it, that we use when we shoot a lot of our video stuff that we're doing right here. Now, before, we had all of our video bags shoved in here with all of our gear in it, but this ladder doesn't usually fit too easily into some of these boots. However, if you really wanted to, you could fit it straight into the Tesla boot. We haven't done that because we don't want to scratch the plastic back here, but you can quite easily make that disappear on an angle like that. Plenty of room, fully flat floor, more than useful. And I reckon if there were 4 adults with reasonably large suitcases or soft bags going on a weekend away, more than enough room for all of their space in here. So the argument that a sedan boot is not useful doesn't really apply to the Tesla Model 3. Tesla Model 3 in its element, rolling around town in silence, doing things that electric cars do particularly well. But as we keep saying with the Model 3, there are certain things that this electric vehicle does better than all of the others. And one of them is the way that it utilizes its battery power. So it's frequently common that you'll get this car down into the low 13 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers in terms of consumption. And some of the competition, they're up at 17 or 18. So this is particularly efficient. Now, it's not perfect. The ride, I guess you could say, is firm, but not uncomfortable. It deals with one sharp hit quite well. So if you hit one of those speed humps, it deals with that particularly well. What it doesn't love is repeated bumps in the road surface. So if you're over a constantly vibrating road surface effectively, it doesn't deal with that particularly well. But a bump like we just went over there, over a speed hump, no problem at all. The way that you interact with the vehicle as a driver, I think, is particularly easy with a Tesla. The steering, the throttle pedal, the brake pedal feel, the way that you can dial in and out what the brake pedal does and the relationship of that to you as the driver, I think, is particularly good with a Tesla. And everything else about the drive experience is really quite inoffensive. It does the city thing particularly well. It's quiet, it's insulated, it's comfortable. And I like the fact that this is a sedan because the driving position is a little bit old school, but parking and maneuverability is excellent because it's not too big. So it's easy to find a parking spot, easy to get in and out of them. This is particularly practical if you're looking for a city-focused electric vehicle. Now, it's fair to say when Tesla launched the Model 3 on the Australian market, and in fact when Tesla launched on the market as a whole, there were some issues with build quality, fit and finish, and attention to detail. But it's fair to say that that elephant in the room has been ushered right out of there because the Model 3 now is a very, very good vehicle. It's built to a high standard, and that's what we expect of a car manufacturer. So Tesla is starting to deliver cars that are built to the standard we would expect from a car manufacturer. So let's park that to one side, and it's very, very easy to tell you after spending a week with the Tesla as we have, why it's one of Australia's most popular electric vehicles and why it's one of Australia's most popular vehicles, full stop. That is because it is particularly good. It's particularly good as a medium sedan, which really does put a knife into the argument that Australians don't want sedans anymore. This is particularly good at doing all the things that sedans have traditionally done very well. That's one point. Secondly, the interactivity and the way that you can interact with the vehicle as the driver is second to none, not just amongst electric vehicles, but amongst vehicles as a whole. Tesla does a particularly good job with the app, with the way it works on your smartphone, with the supercharger network, with the system and the infotainment itself, and the way that you link into the car as the driver. They do a particularly good job, a better job than most other manufacturers, and it's something that a lot of other manufacturers could learn from. Then there's the way that it drives. It's not perfect. The ride is firm, as we said when we were behind the wheel, but it does a hell of a lot of other things particularly well, especially the battery pack that Tesla uses in its cars and the way that the Tesla uses the available power. It's more efficient than most other electric vehicles on the market, and I think that is a real point of note if you are buying yourself an EV. Don't forget, to click on subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our latest videos as they come onto our YouTube channel. Hit like if you've enjoyed this one, and all of the information, the full review, the Tesla Model 3, that's over at Drive.com.au.